So it took me 8 years of cosplaying before I realized what I'm about to tell you. And I know it's probably like bad for attention that I'm just saying this in the first few seconds, but I just really want you to have this pro strat. If you are redesigning an original version of a familiar character or concept or whatever, you gotta have something visually eye-catching that's almost subliminally recognizable. Like a really good redesign catches someone's attention subconsciously, and then they can look closer and see all the little details and put it together and be like, oh my god, look at all this stuff. This literally took me 8 years to learn. I didn't learn this until the time that I made a ball gown out of Animal Crossing items. Like, that costume had a lot of little details, but people only noticed the little things because I had enormous bell bags slapped onto my skirt. But that is a story for another day. The Animal Crossing gown was over 5 years ago, so today I'm a cosplayer that has been doing this for 13 years, and today I am back again on my Animal Crossing bullshit, making this part of this cosplay that is gonna bring it all together.
Today we are finishing the Flick Animal Crossing cosplay we've been working on. We're making a spiked lizard hoodie. We're also making a face mask because I just still have to do that, so. I feel like a hoodie with spikes on it can either read like a normie Halloween costume, or it can read like full alt-fashion fetish gear. And the trick with this project is we're gonna be aiming somewhere in the middle between those two things. Like trendy and alt, but still pretty wholesome. That is our end game. How are we gonna get there? We'll see. Figure it out. Oh my god, I almost forgot to say, hi, I'm Lizard Lee, and trying to combine very like opposite vibes while I'm figuring out the construction as I go is absolutely what we do here on this channel. When you're interpreting a non-human character into like a humanoid cosplay, there's always going to be trade-offs on what parts you want to include and what parts you don't. The idea for the hoodie basically came out of the fact that I thought that would be a really fun way to still incorporate the red of his design without doing a whole body paint thing. I have done body paint. I'm a not cosplayer. I'm a Steven Universe cosplayer. Like, I have done my time in the body paint trenches. I also just think that like fabric spikes on things look really cool and trendy and very drag. It just brings that energy. So, you know, we're gonna try and figure out how to pop those on a hoodie. Also, I am nothing if not a fucking broke bitch and an intractable scavenger. So that means that I do have a fleet of red shirts that I have scavenged, including this one from the literal street. That I'm hoping to use as materials for this. This is probably not going to be enough. I'm probably going to have to supplement a little bit, but the goal is absolutely using these bad boys as our base. Flick does have some stripes on his tail, and I did buy a nice raspberry like ponte fabric that I'm going to hopefully use for some details there. We're going to pull from our stash. We're going to probably do another Pacific trimming run to pick up some more little buckles. It's muslin time, baby. Let's just jump into that.
So I'm moving and grooving on the all-important muslin mock-up phase so we can make a plan for all of this. Honestly, I don't know why I always leave the big, striking, and exciting parts of a cosplay for the absolute last step. I've been working on this Flick cosplay since actually the spring, so I couldn't begin to tell you why I'm just now making the lizard spikes. This project started as a sponsored build by Spoonflower. They supplied the printed fabric, which I designed in Photoshop because, you know, diagonal plaids are the devil, and I don't know why Nintendo did this to us. There's 3 other videos about absolutely everything else that's happened so far, from the first version that I crunched out in just a few days, mainly focusing on that pair of pants, to making a super functional sling bag so I can keep my pants pockets aesthetic only, made some big fixes to the fit of the pants and added some details, tie-dyed the shirt, made a little harness. I am not a fool. I am very aware of the one-to-one parallel of me spending hundreds of hours completing menial tasks in Animal Crossing New Horizons, while I again spend, I don't even want to know how many hours adding these details to this cosplay. But let's not go too deep down the self-analysis rabbit hole, psychoanalyzing all of that. Let's see where we're at on this hoodie mock-up and also the mask mock-up.
I learned my lesson at Hallmat that if I'm doing a KN95, which goes over the ears, and also a little decorative mask that goes over the ears, my poor little ears, they can't take it. They can't take it, they hate it. So this way I've got at least one mask layer that goes over my head. I'm like not doing this totally correctly because I just wanna show you that it works, and I also don't want to fuck up my makeup too bad. But I am feeling pretty good about this one. It definitely needs the little metal thing, but like without pressing it into me too much. I think this is looking good. We're feeling it now, Mr. Krabs. We're feeling our safety protocols. Ooh. So here's the deal. One, I forgot to film pretty much all of this. I just got really in the zone and I'm very sorry. I don't think I can clip this to me, but it's so hard to like not talk with my hands the way I usually do. But right now this is a 3-piece Hood, I think I've gone about as far as I can go with this before I just want to start using the actual materials that I'm going to be making the hood out of, which is going to affect how it, like, you know, drapes and sits and all that. But it looks very large right now because I actually fitted this, like, while wearing my lovely little flick toupee. Let me pop that on real quick. So we can see that the hood that was way too big for my, like, human hair actually works out pretty well once you get the wig on there. It is definitely not holding the circle shape. Ugh, terrible. It is not holding the circle shape the way that I want it to, but that's totally fine because I know a huge part of this is going to be like stabilizing and interfacing so that I can get that nice circle. Would a smart man here stop and test the little spikes both on either side here and hopefully going down the back? Yes, I'm feeling too fucking impatient to be a smart man. I want to just see how the hood looks and then go from there. I also finished the mock-up for the sleeves that I was definitely a little more precise about because there's just not as much architecture on the sleeve. It's gonna fit like how a sleeve fits. And I think I forgot to say, but I am building all of this on a base black t-shirt that I also scavenged. We've got our starting points. Let's cut some fabric and see what happens.
So the t-shirts have been un-t-shirted, I've got my mock-up marked and cut, and now I'm bringing together all these color-blocked bits. I'm a huge necessity is the mother of invention kind of guy, and this design choice of having the sleeve pattern be so involved is totally because of material limitation. Like, I'm fully doing color-blocked sleeves because I do not have enough fabric to cut standard pattern full-length sleeves and a hood out of 3 different colored red shirts. And now that limitation is going to make these sleeves look a lot cooler and more interesting than if I just made them normally. Actually, wait, I forgot. Here's my fashion show moment with these shirts before I deconstructed them. The dark red one is completely benign, the polo shirt is just large, and this one is absolute bottom of the barrel shit tier for how much it reminds me of a t-shirt I fully would have worn in high school. The scoop neck, the 3/4 sleeves. I can't, we're moving on. I bought some grosgrain ribbon, I think it's grosgrain. I don't think it's, if it were grosgrain, that sounds like it'd be something for something else. So I'm stitching down this ribbon. I use spray and bond to put down details like the ribbon and also like these stripes that I mentioned before out of the raspberry ponte material. I am pretty sure this spray is supposed to be like a quilting material, but I use it all the time for small details where I feel like pins would make it get a little puckered and I can't use clips because it's in the middle of a piece of fabric. So with the stripes coming along, that means it is time for the reason why I went with the grosgrain ribbon details in the first place, which is I have a massive backstash of studs and I am planning on putting some in the sleeves. I knew if I put studs just into plain old t-shirt material, it would get puckered and tug on the material, so I am glad that I added this extra bit of stabilization. Flick has a ton of little studs in his character model from the game. I love pulling things from my stash. I love the way the silver catches the light also, so it's a total win-win to include these details. After that, we are stitching up the side seam. I should note that the cuff of these sleeves are actually the first piece of non-t-shirt material because I did end up pulling from that little bit of yardage I got. And oh, how I would love to say, you know, and that's it for today, and here's me the next morning doing the next bit of sewing. But things are about to get a little bit jumbled, so I hope you're buckled in for a fun little plot twist here incoming.
Beloveds, welcome to your and my multiverse of madness, because here's the part where the timeline gets a little wacky. So let's just start with like a full transparency honesty zone. Basically, I sewed most of the sleeves like you just saw, and then the next couple days I moved on to making the mask, which I'm about to show you. Now, I didn't do any of the kind of like chatty inserts that I usually do because I was feeling the time crunch. I was getting ready for a trip. I went on that trip with my girlfriend's family that we had planned for like a year and a half, and I got the you know what. I don't know, can I say COVID on YouTube? Will it totally nuke the video? I thought I'd be able to do the little mask show and tell moment when I got back in town, and that did not end up happening. I ended up being horizontal and playing Stardew Valley for several days.
For someone who really loves cozy games, this was astonishingly my first time downloading Stardew and, you know, moving to the valley. I knew when I played this game I would play it for a few days straight, so honestly it was the perfect activity for making myself completely rest without any productivity. I did not work on Flick, I didn't work on anything, and you know, I got really lucky. I was definitely sick, but the worst of it passed in a few days, and I was solidly in the clear timeline-wise and testing negative multiple times in time for DragonCon. And look, I know that I hyperbolize every second of every single day, but I mean it when I say that the DragonCon weekend was like the happiest and the most creatively fulfilled I have felt since, honestly, KatsuCon 2020. Like, I'm still riding off of that high from meeting other cosplayers and talking about the cool things that we make. There is a reason why I'm 13 years into this weird thing called cosplaying, that it is still kind of the center of my social life and the place that makes me feel the most connected and the most, I don't know, I can't put it into words, but I had a good time at DragonCon.
I don't know what I did karmically to have my DragonCon weekend be protected by the fates and also then protected by my antibodies. But anyway, let's roll that beautiful mask footage and I'll like hover above the timeline and provide commentary on the things that I did a few weeks ago.
Remember earlier when I said that I had designed the fabric that I made Flick's pants out of in Photoshop so that it could be super duper accurate to the game model? Well, surprise, here is that same fabric again. When I made the pants, I ordered enough to have a little bit of extra because I knew that if I biffed it, I wasn't going to be able to run out and just get more of this fabric. So I gave myself some wiggle room, and now that wiggle room is turning into a mask. So Pacific Trimming sells zippers by the yard. I went in and I got a yard so that we could have some non-functional zipper decoration for this like gentle Hot Topic energy mask. The wonderful people that work there were definitely a little bit confused when they asked the very normal like, oh, should this be open or closed at the bottom? And I was like, no, it doesn't matter. I am truly just using this as decorative trim. I'm finishing the tops and bottoms of the zippers here with a little bit of canvas, and look at how these patterns line up. This was like honestly the whole reason why I wanted to do the mask like this. I think it is so satisfying the way the zipper just cuts through a completely uninterrupted looking bit of plaid. Now this does mean that we're making a mask out of literally denim. It is a jask, and that means that I'm using a really lightweight voile to line it, pulled from my stash. Also, look at these plaids lining up in the center seam. Flick's character model from the game has these 4 really subtle little circles going down his face, and luckily I have some circular studs in my stash that I am pulling and putting in the mask to kind of be a nod to that. I was gonna put more studs in, but then I remembered, wait a minute, I have some tiny safety pins. I think it's safety pin time. I experimented a little bit with where these should go in the finished mask and ended up thinking this little kind of X shape on either side was really cute. If you're thinking to yourself, like, dang, Lizard, that is a lot of effort to put into a mask that you're probably gonna take off for a photo shoot, let me be clear, this is a mask always on kind of cosplay, and the reason for that is because Flick has a nose spike in his character model. Besides the fact that it's really easy to forget now here in 2022 that masks like this used to be an all-fashion thing. I know logically I cannot have a little spike stuck onto my little nosy and also wear a mask over it, so the spike is getting built into the mask. We are flipping everything right side out, we are doing our top stitching. These layers of fabric are so thick. I picked up some little ear loopies from Pacific Trimming, which is also the same place where I picked up the little screw-on nose spike we've got built into our mask now. I just flip the edges over a few times, press it, flip it, stitch it shut, and with that, our beautiful aesthetic fashion mask is all the way done, and we can jump back into the present.
I'm gonna see if I can maneuver to get the mask. Love a rolly chair. Wow, look at this mobility. Can I roll the chair back in position? Let's take a look-see. Let's see how she does. Oh, so precious. Not great for audio, but good for the looks. Okay, don't mess up my makeup. Oh no. I really think it's one of the best design decisions I made for this cosplay to really consistently mix the gold and the silver metallics, because I think it just works. More show and tell. Let me grab these guys. I really should have prepped all of this a little bit better, but you know. I'm so mad at myself whenever I look at things that I know when I was making it, I was like, oh, I'm getting really fast and sloppy, like this stitching really isn't shit. And then I look at it later and I'm like, what was I on? What was I thinking that these were sloppy? So the next step for these is gonna be attaching them to the black t-shirt that I'm using as a base for everything. It's gonna be kind of funky, but you know, we'll make it work. Yeah, I love this. I think this is just fantastic. Wow. Yeah, these are great. Look at this. So that means that we are done with our little time travel interlude. We're leaving the multiverse of madness. We're going back to the alpha timeline. I think that's what it was called in Everything Everywhere All at Once. By the way, there was so much fantastic Everything Everywhere All at Once cosplay at DragonCon. Like, holy shit. I saw multiple people cosplaying the Just Be a Rock scene. Fucking inspired. Every Rakakuni cosplay that I see adds years onto my life. Which of course is a very normal way of saying that today we're finally making the hood. I've got the mock-up, I've got some more of that little half yard I picked up. I still need to figure out basically all of the decorations and spikes, but I kind of feel like I have to see how everything drapes with the fabric itself, and then I will figure it out. God, now I really just want to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once again.
I just want to say I was in the middle of making my life really difficult for myself, trying to figure out how I was going to use like mesh fabric to support the hood, and then I remembered that horsehair braid literally exists, and I already have some in my stash. This is a woven plastic kind of trim that gets used to add structure and support to things like, I don't know, a lizard hood that's gonna have some stuff that needs support on it.
We've got here the very pinned together version as I try and figure out what like decorations I want to do on the side here. I decided to line it with the raspberry that I'm using for all the stripes, mainly because I just have a lot of that fabric and it doesn't really matter. It just needs to look neat. One of the things I really love about this is that because the wig for flick that I'm using is kind of large, it is a teased curly clip from Arta. This is a technique I've used for a bunch of different cosplays. I just pop it on so that I can have my shaved sides be part of the billet, and I bobby pin the crap out of it. But it doesn't really collapse as much as my normal hair, which is held up by, you know, fairy dust and secrets. So that means that this hood is like comedically large. It's just, when I put it on without the wig, you can just see how much real estate above me it has. Which, you know, hopefully if it looks silly, which it probably will look silly in a like, well, Flick the character has a really big head and that's just the Animal Crossing style, so you know. I'm gonna see if I can bring back in the cut up t-shirts and get some more detail on here. The horsehair runs around like the hem so that it holds the circle shape in front, and it also runs front to back so that when I put the spikes on there, they will not collapse against my skull. Fingers crossed, my dudes, fingers crossed.
Starting to embellish without a super clear plan can be really risky, and y'all, I was not expecting the hood to be turning out this good. Besides the raspberry tail stripes that I definitely wanted, I'm really just kind of vibing to see what details work, where we want more top stitching, where we want buckles, how the color balance is doing. It's the kind of freeform artistic journey that I think Flick, our metaphysical bug-loving weirdo, would just adore. After how completely cursed the timeline on this project has been, it's literally so correct to just be flowing with the materials and making it happen.
I'm not gonna lie to y'all, today is a very special and exciting day because it is Wednesday, so that means that today is a new episode of Akafaf Day. I had the realization sometime in like, I think July, that I had watched a lot of Dimension 20 this year throughout all of the cosplay builds I have done, and I was suddenly like, wait a minute, I think I can make it a challenge to watch absolutely all of Dimension 20 in the calendar year 2022. There's gotta be like a fun name for this silly goal of mine, like Dimension 2022 or something like that. And A Court of Fae and Flowers, or Akafaf, is the current season. New episodes come out on Wednesdays. Today we're getting the second to last episode. Something about the pining, just the sheer level of feelings in their what if a Regency romance were set in like Courts of the Feywild. It is so important to me. And I also gotta say, the Flick vibes are very present. Flick has a lot of feelings about insects. Flick also speaks in really flowery language about the bugs. It is fueling both me as a person and also this cosplay. So, you know, much like the penultimate episode of this streamed actual play D&D show that I've been watching while I'm doing this project, I think this project is on its like penultimate little moment here. I should have grabbed the hood before I started filming, hang on. Here she is. Here's the finished hood. Look at her, I think she looks so great. I love how clean all of the color blocked details turned out. I love that, like, because it's kind of t-shirt fabric, it's okay if it's a little bit, I don't know, like wrinkly or whatever in spots, because that's what hoodies are supposed to do. This poor wig is in desperate need of some rehabilitation. I've learned my lesson from like reviewing past footage that I do accidentally bonk the mic even when I don't think I'm doing that. So I'm gonna keep it a little bit open for now and use the power of my spinny chair to hopefully show you. Wow, look at this. Our last step is gonna be adding the spikes to go all along there. I also do need to figure out how I'm gonna like gather down the bottoms. I also need to figure out if I am going to have this permanently attached to the t-shirt or if I wanna have it like detachable. So those are the things that I am thinking about today. I'm actually planning on doing the last little bit of this flick crafting on my first ever crafting live stream tomorrow, which I'm like really excited about because I've spent a lot of time setting it up and making sure that things work smoothly, but I am also nervous about because, you know, I've spent a lot of time setting it up and making sure it works smoothly. And what if that doesn't happen? The live streams are part of my memberships program that I run through Kofi. Those monthly memberships are how I'm able to do truthfully all of this, and for $5 and higher, I do twice a month productivity live streams. So far, that has mostly been video editing and chatting and hanging out and getting stuff done, which is really fun, but I always wanted to do crafting, and it's taken a while for me to get my setup figured out. I think I finally got it. So thank you times infinity to my members. I know I say it every video, but it's true every video that I could not do any of this without them and their support. So thank you, and if you show up to the stream, I hope you have a good time. I hope nothing crashes and burns. And a special thank you this week to Hust, who upgraded their membership. Thank you so much. It's been so much fun hanging out in stream. The battery light is flashing at me, so that is my sign that it is time to put the tripod down or move the tripod around elsewhere in the room. Pick up the muslin, pick up the iron, make some stuff happen. Huge thank you to Spoonflower for initially sponsoring the first part of this build and providing the amazing fabric that the pants are made out of. Thank you to Animal Crossing for, you know, the hundreds of hours of my life that you have taken. Have I said in this video yet that I completed my Critterpedia? Okay, really quick before the battery dies. I completed my Critterpedia. It happened while I had COVID. I finally did it. I got all of my items. I got the museum achievements. Like, the plot has truly come full circle. And thank you for watching this. I've had a little too much caffeine, so I'm getting a little pointy. I'm like feeling my, this is a drag number, and I'm trying to make you feel seen in the audience. Gonna change the battery and move into our penultimate crafting montage.
So luckily cones are pretty simple to pattern, but I did make some slight adjustments to each one of these before cutting them. I'm also going for a double layer of fabric because I know how polyfill can be with stretchy fabric like we're using. I'm finally stitching down our lovely sleeves under this black shirt and giving a little, I don't know, I think a fashion show is generous, but I'm certainly putting it on and wiggling around like that for some reason. God. Why did I? Okay, we gotta cut this. We gotta go away. Because it is about the cones, my friends. Here's one all pinned and pressed and ready to go. The inaugural crafting stream did go very well. We had some CPU issues, you know, but no catastrophic failures otherwise. And the hood is really starting to come together. I'm mainly using a ladder stitch to get these on and just kind of taking my time, keeping my stitches tiny, keeping things nice and neat, and watching a lot of Dimension 20 and, you know, keeping the vibes up. I'm obsessed with how the spikes are turning out, and as we are coming into that home stretch, I'm starting to realize I definitely do not want to bother attaching the hood to the shirt. I will gladly let gravity do that work, so I make some quick binding out of the absolute last t-shirt standing. Then I'm pulling the classic zigzag stitch to gather a few strategically selected chunks of the hood. And if there do end up being, you know, problems with the hood staying put, that is a bridge I will cross and a river I will ford when I get there. For now, I'm just focused on getting this binding done cleanly and being excited about the big, flashy, dramatic part of this costume to finally add on to all the fiddly details I've spent so long making. Our absolute last step is me saying, I'm pretty sure I have a sew-in comb in my stash here somewhere, and guess what? I do. So our quite literal last step is me just hand tacking in this comb so that when I put the hood on my head, it will hopefully stay in place. Then it's just one more sleep till Flickmas because we did it! There's just one last thing I want to share. Before we get all set up and look at the totally finished cosplay after all the work you just saw and literal months of sewing even before that, before we have that big reveal, I want to reveal to you that actually there was supposed to be more. When I first started making this cosplay in March, I bought the base materials to make Flixnet. These materials have been sitting on top of my closet since March. And I'm telling you this when I should just edit that out and have a nice victory lap moment because I've really learned something making this cosplay. I have learned that there are so many of you out there, and by you I mean fellow people who make things and make them with a fucking stratospheric level of attention to detail. When you are the kind of person who would rather build from scratch and craft by hand and give everything 120%, it can feel bad.jpg to know in your heart that there should have been more, that this isn't the full fantasy. I'm still planning on making this big ol' prop sometime before WinterCon season, but I'm not making it right now, because I know right now it's more important to me to actually cross that finish line and unlock the achievement than to get a perfect score. So like, hey, if you are that kind of person who loves creating but can also drive yourself into the ground if you don't stop yourself, this is your sign to just let that project be done. It's done when you say it is. That's my surprise bonus cosplay wisdom for sticking around this long. It's like, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, but instead it's, you know, don't let the looming dollar store hamper be the enemy of the literal pair of pants you made with your hands. Okay, now we can victory lap.